Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Fiona. Winter's brutal grip held tightly to the countryside as the old woman rocked in her chair and watched the crackling fire. Her cabin was neither large nor luxurious, but it suited her needs, and it was home. A granny square afghan, one she crocheted in her younger days, covered her lap. A wrinkled hand clung to its border, while another clutched a mug of steaming tea. She looked down at the brightly colored afghan and patted it. "We've seen some things, old blanket. That we have." The shades of the blanket held special meaning. Each of the colors reminded her of warm spring and summer days. The black border represented the long nights of a seemingly endless winter. Fiona had lived through many of those days and nights. She lost count of the years that passed, but she doubted that it mattered. Living alone in the woods, living off the food her family grew or harvested from the wild and then stored away, she had no reason to keep track of time. It was enough to know that it passed. "Memories. So many memories," she muttered. The cold wind rattled the windows, causing her to wince, and then she returned to her thoughts. Most were happy recollections, but some were not. "I guess that's what happens when you live to be my age." Beside her burned an old-fashioned oil lamp. Her mother told her it belonged to her great-grandmother, and from the looks of it, she believed that to be true. When she was a young girl, her mother taught her how to use it. As a child, however, she was never allowed to do so on her own. "You never know when power will go out and you will need this. Always keep a supply of oil and some matches on hand." Fiona listened carefully to her mother's instructions and committed to memory the process of using and caring for the lamp. Her mother was right. She'd used the cherished heirloom many times through the years, and it seemed only fitting that now, as she also sat as a decrepit antique herself, it would be her companion and lend her comfort. "Mama and Grandma told me a time like this would come. They knew many things, and people either praised them or scorned them for being prophetic. Grandma's visions led Grandfather to build this cabin atop the cavernous limestone in these woods." Her grandfather, a master tradesman, could create nearly anything his wife or daughter imagined. For Fiona's 5th birthday, he presented her with her own small Ferris wheel. Ah, the sights I could see as I swayed back and forth in the wooden car, while the wheel took me around and around. The relic she'd long since outgrown remained in storage in a back room. At no time did Fiona ever doubt that she was loved. While not showered with expensive gifts, the handmade presents and the lessons her family taught her were far more valuable than anything money could buy. A loving family was all she could have wished for, and that was what she had. "You must always prepare for the future, Fiona. Never let an emergency catch you unable to survive," her grandmother admonished her as they canned vegetables from the garden one day. "Even if you think you've more than enough, or that something will be of no use to you, always store away more. You never know what you may need. Remember that it's better to have something you didn't need than to discover that you wished you'd had it." Their cellar, constantly filled to the brim, was an endless source of amazement for young Fiona. Rows and rows of canned goods and supplies lined the walls. The old woman now smiled to herself as she slowly rocked in her chair, proudly remembering the perseverance of her family. "Our neighbors indeed considered us odd. We didn't care. We also didn't let them know the extent of our stockpile. When times are bad, people become like animals." Her father's words frightened her, but he reassured her. "Don't worry, my little Fee. We won't let any harm come to you or our family. We must always live frugally, however, and we must never brag about what we have stored away. As far as the world is concerned, we are poor people living in a little cabin in the woods. The less others know, the safer we are." Thinking back, Fiona swore she could still smell her father's aftershave in the air. A craftsman like her grandfather, he carried the comforting sense of leather and lumber with him. A hulk of a man with a caring heart and a quick mind, her father was her hero. The wind outside raged and the ground rumbled. The cabin held its own, however. She released the breath she held. It would pass in a moment. At least, she hoped it would. If she thought hard enough, she could remember the sunshine. The warmth of the fire reminded her of sun rays glowing in a bright blue sky. As a young girl, she couldn't imagine that sunshine would ever go away, and it pained her to know that it had. Her grandmother had held her hands and peered down at her with piercing gray eyes. "My dear, I know it's difficult to believe, but it will happen. My visions have told me so. Because of this, we must continue to prepare. It's coming." Then one day when she was 10 years old, news spread of a cataclysm so great that it threatened all of mankind. Just as her grandmother predicted, a megavolcano stirred to life, throwing so much debris into the air that the sun's rays could not cut through the clouds. Fiona's family clung to each other and carried a few more items down to the limestone caverns beneath their cabin. The cavernous rock served as both their warehouse and sanctuary. "It will be cool in the cave, Fiona, but it won't be bitterly cold like the outside world will become. We will grow used to the cooler temperatures, but the ground will insulate us. We will survive." Now she knew why her mother and grandmother made blankets, shawls, and coats of all sizes. As the family's needs changed, they now had what it took to stay warm. While the world turned black and winter raged for years, Fiona and her family lived in the protective confines of the cavern. Now in her upper 80s, she was all who remained of her family. "Do not grieve for me or your father, Fiona," her mother told her on her deathbed. "We've been given a gift to live full lives when millions, billions even, of people did not. Hold on to your memories, and we will still be with you." On evenings like this, now that the world's temperatures began to warm, Fiona made daily trips up to the cabin she loved, so she could rock in her chair and reminisce. The howling wind served as a reminder that still all was not well with the world, but Fiona smiled because she knew that all was well in her heart. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Into the Night Anthology podcast, written by Caroline Giammanco, narrated by Nari, theme music by Nico Rodriguez. You can find our links in the show notes. Into the Night is on your favorite podcatcher, so make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review to help other excursionists to join us. I'll see you next time, and remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths lead you into the night. Hi, excursionists. I'm so glad you stayed. If you ever wonder what I'm working on when I'm not here, you can find my current and past projects at narinarrates.com. That's also where you can sign up to be a story in my library, where every story somehow finds its way back home.